Girls just want to have guns. More and more women are locking and loading. There's an organization called Well Armed Women. I guess first out of Scottsdale, Arizona. How many chapters where, Aim?
182 chapters in 42 states.
And the woman that started Well Armed Women said her company's goal is to introduce women to guns in a safe and supportive environment. I don't know exactly what that means, but Kirk Evans is an attorney out of Texas who specializes in Second Amendment issues and joins us to talk about this organization a bit and the huge uptick in how many women specifically are becoming not only gun owners, but applying for concealed carry, as you can recently do here in the great state of Illinois. Kirk Evans, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing very well.
So, Kirk, how big is this increase nationally?
The increase has been pretty substantial. I don't know if it's disproportional to men. We've had a very large uptick in gun ownership and concealed carry permits over the past few years. At least our organization has seen both men and women. But the statistical report is that I think 79% of gun ranges and gun stores saw an uptick in female gun purchases.
And why are women getting involved and arming up?
Well, for a woman, women are, just on average, smaller and more susceptible to physical violence than your average big burly dude. And so a handgun has always been a useful tool for self-defense. Well, in the past, one, there weren't concealed carry permits. Two, you just couldn't find guns as easily as you could. Now, in most major metropolitan areas, it's difficult to even drive down the street without seeing a sign for a gun range or a gun store.
Kirk Evans is here out of Texas. He's a attorney. He also represents Texas Law Shield. We're talking a bit about women are decided to arm themselves. I would assume you're familiar with John Lott. We've had him on the show a number of times. He wrote a groundbreaking book years ago called More Guns, Less Crime, based out of Texas statistically. And I think the more the American people educate themselves on legal and safe gun ownership, you realize what an advantage it can be. When good citizens stand up, crime tends to go down.
That is correct. There's even another study where they interviewed folks in prison, and they asked the folks in prison, what do you do if you know that your potential victim has a gun? And just the astronomical percentage say, move on to the next target.
Yeah, perps tend to be cowards when you get right down to it.
That is correct.
Amy and I discuss at times, we discuss gun issues quite a bit, and I've said, and I believe in equality for everybody. Everybody should have the exact same opportunity in America, the exact same freedoms. However, I would say if I were issuing concealed carry permits, I might expedite women's applications even over men's, because I think there's a greater need for women to be able to reach into that purse and grab for something other than mace.
No, that is correct. As I was mentioned earlier, women tend to be smaller, tend to be less susceptible or less able to fight off an attacker, and then there's also always the domestic violence issues that are prevalent these days.
Now, how recently there was a 9-year-old girl, it was a horrible story out of Arizona, just south of Las Vegas. This 9-year-old was at a shooting range. She was using a semi-automatic weapon, and it flew back in her hands, and she killed the instructor. Is that affecting the way that women and young children are going to shooting ranges?
I hope it does affect them. I hope it does not deter them, but I absolutely hope it affects folks. We, even though we're staunch Second Amendment supporters, we're also staunch supporters in don't give a gun to a person that can't use it and isn't trained in how to use it. So hopefully women will take the lesson that, you can't just buy a gun, stick it in your purse, and forget about it. Hopefully they'll learn how to use it, learn how to shoot well.
Two groups, one primarily African-American and one primarily Caucasian, kind of faced off. They're both Second Amendment groups.
That's right.
This was in Houston,
Yep.
and I guess the protest is going to happen not this past weekend, but the weekend previous. And luckily, we heard nothing else about the protest. They're both protesting their right to bear arms, open carry, but it had a kind of a sort of racial aspect to it. But apparently, the Houston police were able to just get it done, so to speak.
That's a very good point, because I actually heard nothing about it either, and I'm down here in Houston, but I heard the week before the protests everybody was mad, but didn't hear a word about them, so I think that's probably good news.
That means all went well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No news is good news.
Kudos to the Houston police. Hey, nice making your acquaintance, Kirk. We'll have you back. We talk Second Amendment rights and privileges here quite often, and we'll have you back as warranted. Okay, sir?
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Kirk Evans, attorney out of Texas, talking about women, the Second Amendment. He represents an organization called Texas Law Shield, and we'll have to look into the Well Armed Women organization. Do they have a chapter here in Chicago, do we know?
They in Illinois, not in Chicago.
So we'll tell you more about Well Armed Women a little bit later on during the program this week.